Thanks for tuning in to episode 82 of the 4Ps, coming to you outdoors in beautiful Napa, California, where I'm here for a work event. You hear the wildlife, see the sunrise. It's the first time I've actually been here, and I can see the appeal. Now, we've already visited some of the vineyards and wineries. I'm still not sure what the difference is between a vineyard and a winery, but I picked a great time to end my 2-year hiatus from drinking. That fall from the wagon may not last too long, but while I'm here, we are going to have a grape old time. In the last episode 81 of the 4Ps, I talked about the truth and information challenges that social platforms are trying to address. I've been a Facebook partner in many ways now going on over a decade, but one viewer last week suggested that I read Zucked, a book that came out earlier this year that exposes some of the dark realities about Facebook. So I did. Now, I'm not saying it is 100% factually accurate or that I agree with the conclusions, but the key takeaways from the book are that Facebook is lacking in clear moral or civic values to guide it. And in the absence of effective regulation, it is actively harming our society and our culture. As examples, it shows cases where Facebook uses manipulative techniques to keep all of us hooked and engaged on the platform, and how one side effect of this is polarizing public debate. Facebook thrives on surveillance, gathering data on you to keep you hooked on the site and increasing your value to people like me, advertisers. And they make a compelling case for how easy it has been for shall we say, external actors like Russia to use Facebook to influence users in the US. In the early years of Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg himself was supremely confident, not just in his business plan, but in the self-evidently beneficial goal of connecting the world. The conditions were right for growth of a global community superstar, different than Google. And they were also conditions that bred a disregard for user privacy, safety, and civic responsibility. After all, this is content that appeals to our most basic human emotions. And that's because triggering our basic human emotions is what keeps you engaged. Joy, it works. Jealousy, it works, which is why cute cat videos are so common, but so are the pictures that you like of your friends in exotic vacation locations. Also, things that work, emotions like fear and anger, that we talked about last week. Now, I am pretty sure that on the flight out here to San Francisco, there were at least 20 Facebook employees sitting within view or passing me on their way to the lavatory, and they may or may not have been giving me ugly looks. Now, I promise you this was not personal, just curiosity. This one also spills out over into the political because it speaks to the case for increasing regulation that some countries are imposing or trying to impose. And more than a handful of presidential candidates are focusing on this. It needs to be regulation that gets to the heart of its harmfulness. One place to start would be to mandate the option of an unfiltered Facebook newsfeed. With a click button, you could toggle your newsfeed from your view based on the Facebook algorithm and artificial intelligence to judge what would keep you interested the longest, and then toggle to a more neutral or balanced view of what's happening in the world. Now, another positive step would be to regulate those algorithms and artificial intelligence. In the US, this could be done via an equivalent to like the FDA, but for technology, with the responsibility for ensuring that the algorithms serve rather than exploit us. Mandated third-party auditing of algorithms would create sufficient transparency to avoid the worst cases of like filter bubbles that we live in and potential manipulation. And we accept and value regulation in many industries, using it to strike a balance between public interest and economic freedom. Now, in the present, when it comes to tech, that balance is not being properly struck, and it may be time for a change. Lawmakers are coming for big tech. Just how hard may remain to be seen. Facebook's $5 billion fine this week didn't impact their value one bit, but it's becoming bipartisan. Just this week, Missouri Senator Josh Hawley and our favorite Ted Cruz sent a letter to the FTC asking them to use investigative authority to look into the opaque decision-making practices at Facebook, Google, Twitter, YouTube. Speaking of YouTube, last week was VidCon down the coast from here in Anaheim. But whereas YouTube has usually been the big star of the show there, this year saw a newcomer challenging the big boys, TikTok. Now, TikTok, which is, for those of you who don't know, a short form video social platform. It used to be huge in China before coming here last year. Users can upload and edit 15-second videos. There's usually catchy music or voiceovers. It's fun, it's silly, it's less toxic and not as visually compelling like Instagram might be, but it's massive with teens and even preteens. So marketers have to be very careful here. But TikTok wants marketers, make no mistake. They reportedly spent nearly $1 billion on advertising alone last year and have aggressively courted YouTube's biggest creators. Now, there are 1.2 billion or so monthly users globally, making it potentially bigger than Instagram already. I'm wary. It's still very new and raw and not the safest place that brands might want and need. But if this year's VidCon is any indication, this platform is not going anywhere. And that's why teens love it, because people like me don't realize how important it is yet. But the most important thing needed for TikTok to be successful is creating ways for the actual creators and influencers to make money on the platform. And that continues to be the struggle. Once upon a time, not too long ago, I worked at a big company that was using both Slack and Microsoft Teams for internal communication and collaboration. Now, Slack was the hot new application that everyone was excited about. The cool, young, hip strategists were all over it. But it lacked a lot in terms of professional capabilities and security. And it still does. And Microsoft Teams, on the other hand, was an unsexy, uncool, unhip, uncola, but it worked. Which is why it's not a surprise to me that Microsoft revealed this week that Teams has 13 million daily users, which is more than Slack, which is only 10 million users. A lot of it comes down to need. Slack is big with startups. Teams is doing better among bigger companies and businesses. Slack has more smaller companies, right? There are more actual clients on there. And they may intersperse it with Google Docs, and that's how we're using it now. Now, maybe I'm the old man in the room or here in the valley, but I now sit in this unique position of being both kind of on a startup as well as part of a massive global team, and I prefer Teams. Now, Microsoft launched Teams 3 years after Slack, but it has managed to get tons of users by offering free trials and integrating with other products, right? Office and Skype, etc. So from a practical perspective and a business security and threat protection perspective, Microsoft is a better practical choice. One thing not on the radar, Facebook Workplace, which some say is gaining traction. However, may take a lot to crack my top two.